gon' take it there? Who gon' take it there? Who gon' take it there? Who gon' take it there? Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
So the NYC Democratic primary debate happened last night for mayor. So Democratic primary for mayor. This is kind of the first round. It's a big pool of potential Democratic nominees here. A lot of random names, some of them kind of familiar, most of them not. And then you have Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo at the top. Cuomo is leading the race and Mamdani is in second place, sort of closing the gap with him there. So really those are the most two relevant figures in this race, and there's more people running, so I can understand why it was, the debate was spread out amongst all the different candidates. However, I feel like Zohran got the least amount of time. And he spoke well when he spoke, and he did get a few moments to lay some things out. They didn't totally ignore him. But given that the race is kind of between Andrew Cuomo and Zohran at this point, it does seem like a little bit deliberately balanced against Zohran. I just didn't hear that much from him. And with Cuomo, what was happening is all of the candidates were sniping at him the entire time. And so the focus kind of kept being sent back to Cuomo. And that sort of happened a couple times with Zohran, people making jabs at him for being a socialist or whatever. But it just the conversation didn't refocus around Zohran's agenda. There was a little bit of quibbling about past statements and that sort of thing. So I'll play a couple clips from it. Again, mostly focusing on Cuomo and Mamdani. If one of these other candidates becomes more relevant in the race, then I'll mention them more going forward. But, as of right now, this is between Zohran and Cuomo. The other relevant figure I would say is Brad Lander, who is essentially the person that AOC was considering giving the endorsement to. So everybody's been kind of waiting on AOC to see who she's going to endorse in this mayoral race. Seems kind of like an obvious choice to go for Zohran. But she has a previous relationship with Brad Lander, who is a comptroller and, has some experience on that financial side of things in New York in terms of, public service. And so there is an existing relationship there. He seemed to, have some decent things to say on stage. I honestly was not very impressed with him. For him to sort of be in the running with Zohran in that way, he's just not that impressive in this race. And honestly, I don't think most of the candidates are. There were a couple of them that were, making swings to try to get their message out there and try to, make salient points about Trump and fighting Trump and frame themselves as the only ones willing to do that. So, there were some decent things being said, but at the end of the day, people know Andrew Cuomo. And so even though he is a sex criminal, he still has the highest chance of winning because of that. And Zohran is, the most popular among people who want to shake things up and want an anti-establishment candidate and want New York to do something different. So that's the dynamic of this race. And the rest of them are kind of just vying to see what small percentage they can win of the vote. But unless something drastically changes, it's either going to be Cuomo or Zohran. And look, Zohran is behind at this point, and he does have a tough opponent in Andrew Cuomo. And even if he beats Andrew Cuomo, that's not the end of this. He still has to go through another round of the actual general election up against Mayor Adams as an independent. So Adams was not at this debate, but he will be running in the general election, and also Andrew Cuomo might too. Andrew Cuomo, if he loses the primary, might decide to run as an independent. So that is what Zohran is up against, and because of that, and because of the fact that he's, the most popular candidate aside from Cuomo, I think he should have been given more airtime. But there were some interesting exchanges between Cuomo and Zohran specifically, where, you can see the weaknesses of Cuomo a little bit here, which there are many, but I don't think we should underestimate people's willingness to vote for a guy like him just because they perceive him as being able to do the job in some kind of bombastic or eccentric way. And Zohran's, lack of experience so far is definitely a liability for him, and that's the main thing that was focused on. So I'll play a couple clips from here just so you can get the gist of the vibe, for the most part, between Zohran and Cuomo here.
Mr. Mamdani is very good on Twitter and with videos, but he actually produces nothing for him to accuse me of lying. He also called President Obama a liar and said President Obama was evil. So take everything with a grain of salt. Donald Trump would go through Mr. Mamdani like a hot knife through butter. He's been in government 27 minutes. He passed 3 bills. That's all he's done. He has no experience with Washington, no experience in New York City. He would be Trump's delight.
All right, brief response, Mr. Mamdani, then we have to move on.
Look, it's true that I don't have experience with corrupt Trump billionaires who are funding my campaign. I don't have experience with party politics and insider consultants. I do have experience, however, with winning $450 million in debt relief for thousands of working class taxi drivers and actually delivering it to the working class people I claim.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Lander?
I find it ridiculous to hear Andrew Cuomo talk about how we need to regulate the apps when this is the very mayoral candidate who has a super PAC that received $1 million from DoorDash. How are you going to regulate DoorDash when they are giving you $1 million to influence your street safety regulations and your labor regulations? This economic model is one that doesn't just incentivize e-bike riders to break street safety laws. It often requires
Thank you,
them
Mr.
to do so to make
Mr. Cuomo, do you want to respond to that?
Yes. I work for the people of the state of New York, the people of the city of New York. I don't care who gave me what. I do what is right, and that's how I.
But you don't feel compromised?
That's how I've always run my.
But don't you feel
career.
compromised?
I just said the apps should be held responsible. They are the ones who should have to license the bike, register the bike. They should be responsible for the fees. They're the ones who are making the money.
Thank you, Mr.
And in terms of who represents who.
Thank you very much. We have to go to Mr. Blake.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mamdani, we'll go to you.
If you are one of the close to 2.5 million New Yorkers who live in rent-stabilized housing, I will freeze your rent. And I will do that because you have a median household income of $60,000 while your landlord profits have increased by 12%. This is an act that will bring nearly $7 billion back into your pocket and back into the pockets of our local economy. This is what we will do immediately, and we'll do so because the mayor has the power to. Even though there are those like Andrew Cuomo on this stage who will tell you it's unrealistic, we know the previous mayor actually did this 3 times. And on top of this, we're going to build 200,000 truly affordable homes. Homes that are for the New Yorker who has a median household income of $70,000 for a family of 4. We'll do this while taking on the very bad landlords and the real estate developers who are funding Andrew Cuomo's campaign, $2.5 million last time I checked. And we're going to do that because ultimately every single person needs to follow the law, and that includes the landlords who are violating our housing code and have $800 million in fines that the city have yet to actually collect on.
Very brief response. Very brief response, Mr. Cuomo.
Mr. Mamdani is very good at videos, but not reality.
We've already heard that line before.
The Daily News said that his plan to finance his proposals, it violates the constitutional debt cap of the city of New York. It would double the state taxes, and there is no way the state is going to pass a tax statewide.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cuomo. We have to.
No, he's invoked me. I should be able to respond. Just for 10 seconds.
Just
for 10 seconds here.
Brief response.
What the governor is speaking about is when we want to fight for working class people, it's considered unrealistic. But when he wants to give Elon Musk a $1 billion tax break, it's totally feasible. What the Daily News found is that this would mean taking a $30 billion budget, increasing it such that we could actually create truly affordable housing.
All right. So this was Cuomo and Zohran going back and forth, and you can kind of see the way Cuomo was getting hit from every direction in this debate. Everybody was going after him. He was obviously the big fish. There was a little bit of jabbing at Zohran as well. But, with Cuomo, I think he seemed like he was kind of sleepwalking through this, I'll be honest. And his vibe is recognizable. Like, this is what he was like when he was governor, I guess. He wasn't that frontward facing as governor, except for when COVID happened. Governor isn't as much of a TV position as mayor is. So I don't know. To me, I guess I've never watched a debate with Cuomo in it, but to me, this felt a little bit, he kind of reminds me of Biden a little bit here, if I'm being perfectly honest. Just like he was sharp enough. He answered all the questions. He definitely comes off like a crook, or just like a, he's just kind of a scumbag. But I just felt that he didn't seem like he was all the way with it, or all the other candidates are, snapping. Like they're trying to make their case. They're trying to make themselves stand out. And Cuomo, not only is he not doing that because he doesn't have to, he just doesn't really seem like he has the energy to, like he really cares to. And I think that's his biggest mistake when it comes to Zohran, is he doesn't really seem to be taking Zohran that seriously. The campaign recognizes that Zohran's their number one candidate. They're also pretty much in the position where they're like, it's going to be hard for him to catch up, so as long as we cruise and don't do anything stupid, we'll probably win. But they are, they would be remiss to underestimate the momentum that he has, and also the fact that, in my opinion, Zohran just clearly comes across as the best option and the most leadership ready of anybody on the stage. And it's partially a communications thing, which isn't necessarily the same as governing or being a leader. But Brad Lander, for example, kind of took the Elizabeth Warren approach of, I've got this plan and it's hard for me to fit all my plans into 30 seconds. And that's great, but I don't really think that the public has bought into that sort of strategy of politics as of right now. Maybe they will. It'd be nice, if America was informed and pragmatic enough on the whole, or even New York was informed and pragmatic enough to, elect leaders who talk like that. Like, I've got a plan for this, and I got a plan for this, and I got, we did all this process to, create this plan. I mean, that is what governing looks like. That's what it's supposed to look like. All of the candidates on stage have to do some measure of that, whether they like it or not. Cuomo apparently, likes to use AI for it. And, the biggest criticism of Zohran is that he's inexperienced, and Cuomo kind of pretty weakly jabs at the fact that, his policies won't work, or they're unrealistic, or whatever, which is the obvious point to go for with somebody in Zohran's position. Same thing that they said about Bernie. In some cases, is that inexperience that he has a genuine liability, where some of these plans might not work the way he thinks they will, and he won't necessarily know what to do if that does happen. I think that's the biggest risk, is that, Zohran as mayor, it's not just about what your plan is, it's about what New York's plan is. And things are going to happen that you can't predict, and anybody in any leadership position, from the president all the way down to the bottom, is going to just come up against that. And the mayor of New York tends to not survive when that happens, pretty much no matter who they are. So, I think Zohran came across the best on stage. I don't know how much that counts for, to be perfectly honest with you, because I thought the same thing with Kamala versus Trump. I mean, my issues with Kamala aside, and the fact that it wasn't like an amazing debate performance, but if you just looked at it from a fairly objective perspective in terms of like who looks better on stage, who comes across a little bit more charismatic, who looks better on TV, Trump was horrible in that debate. He was like scowling, he was angry, he was fuming, he was saying like weird, he was at some of his most unhinged points during that debate. But still, whatever he delivered in the course of that, and on the campaign trail, and just whatever people associate with Trump when it comes to the lever pull, the sort of perfunctory, well, I gotta vote for somebody, who's it gonna be? For some reason, Trump won out more than I thought he would, in terms of who people viewed as like viable as president. And not saying that like a ton of people voted for that, but more than we would like, and enough to win the election. And so is that same exact thing going to happen in New York? I think it's fully likely. I think Zohran has a chance of beating him. I think it's, there is a chance that New York wants to see new leadership. And I do think that candidates, no matter what happens in this race or what happened in 2016 or 2020 with Bernie, I think candidates who have this type of message are against the, against the wishes of the establishment and the media and whoever else, the incumbents. They're always going to have the most powerful message. It's a message that speaks to what people want to hear right now. And unfortunately, the odds are stacked against whoever chooses to go about that message in an honest way, i.e. not taking corporate money and that sort of thing. But, I think those are going to be continuing to be the most relevant candidates in elections across the country, especially in heavily populated places. Candidates like Zohran are going to continue to be relevant, and they're going to continue to dominate the narrative. And, there are going to be some wins that come along with that. So hopefully that's the case with Zohran here. Real quick, I'll play one more clip here. This was a weird moment at the end. The moderator is asking everybody, where would they first go? What would their first trip be as mayor? Kind of obviously opening the door for the answer to be Israel there, I guess. And so most of the people that they went around the table, they mostly said Israel. That's what Cuomo said. Zohran said he's not going to go anywhere. He doesn't have any plans to go on a trip. And the moderators kind of seize on that. So let's play that real quick, just so you can get a little bit of a sense of what Zohran is up against in this debate and going forward in this election.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not as a Jewish state?
No,
as a state with equal rights.
He won't say it has a right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very clear.
And his answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that.
That's what he was trying to say.
No. Unlike you, I answer questions very directly.
All right,
and I want to be very clear. I believe every state should be a state of equal rights.
Okay. Yeah, so that was weird. So first of all, at the end there, there's a little clip, like a little cut at a certain point in that. I think right after she asks if Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state. And as he's answering that question, something got cut out there. Now, I clipped this from the live stream of this debate. And the only way that they could have cut something out is if they literally did it in real time before the stream reached air. Which it's possible that they did that. They are able to do that. But it didn't really seem like he said anything crazy in that moment. It just doesn't seem like the kind of thing that they would cut out like that. So I doubt that's what happened, but it's just weird. If that was like a weird glitch that happened in that moment, it was a very odd time for that. And yeah, if it was something that was censored, I guess that's possible, but understand that would mean that in real time, Zohran said something that they felt the need to cut out before, in the seconds before the stream reached air. So that's not super likely. I guess it's also possible that maybe the stream was running behind and that was it correcting itself. It was a weird moment for it to do that, man. But either way, this was an odd moment in this debate. Definitely a moment of picking out a specific moment to go after a candidate for something that is controversial. Now, to be fair, this same moderator did the same thing with Cuomo, where at one point she uses another question, some other opportunity about whether Cuomo has any regrets, whether they have any regrets in politics. And then she used that to ask him further, about the sexual harassment allegations and if he has anything to say about that. So it was a similar kind of tactic where she took this lightning round moment and then used that to dig deeper and say, actually, this is an opportunity to ask you about something that is controversial that, you've made headlines about and you might make more headlines about. And it is kind of an ambush because this is a lightning round. They're supposed to have one word, very quick answers as they go around the table on this. And she really sees that as a moment to try to take him off guard. So he still did a great job. Zohran's number one asset is his charisma, for sure. And I think he thought quickly on his feet here, and his answer is correct here. I mean, he is in a position where he's got to choose the right thing to say about Israel, and I think that's the right place to stand, because that's a principle that you can stand on. Israel has a right to exist as a state with equal rights, and it's really interesting to see how that leads to outrage on this panel here, and the idea that Israel doesn't have a right to exist as a Jewish state, as a Jewish ethno-state, is the party line here. That's what this moderator is testing. She's saying, is Zohran willing to go with the party line on this? This is obviously something that his enemies would call him an anti-Semite for saying, but it's also kind of a common sense position. No, Israel doesn't have the right to exist as a Jewish state. It's just kind of a weird logic. I mean, we've been arguing against the idea of ethno-states with white nationalists for the last 10 years since Trump came into the picture, and arguing against the idea of ethno-states as a path to any type of societal or democratic progress at all. And yet that's exactly what Democrats, the all candidates for the Democratic Party, are supposed to say as a qualifying measure for whether they can be in leadership. It's pretty bizarre. So that's about it for this debate. I think Zohran will probably get buried by the media. He didn't have as much airtime as he should have here, but he still ran away with it. There were some great moments, some great punches landed against Cuomo. He probably shouldn't have showed up to this, honestly. It was probably more bad for him than anything. And yeah, like I said, he kind of just comes off zombie-like here, but doesn't mean he's not going to sleepwalk his way right into the mayor's office. So we'll keep eyes on this and keep all of our support in Zohran's corner. And actually, just as I was recording this podcast and putting it together, AOC has announced her endorsement of Zohran Mamdani. So that's great. That's a huge boost. Everyone was waiting on that. I assumed she was waiting for some kind of opportune time, I guess after this debate was what she was looking for. So now that he has the endorsement from her, I do think there will be some unification behind him that could very well change the momentum of the race. But at the same time, I'm sure Cuomo and his people expected this. And remember, if you're in New York, fill out all of your slots in your ranked choice voting ballot, put Zohran at the top, and don't rank Andrew Cuomo at all. So do not list Andrew Cuomo in any position on your ballot, but fill all of the positions on your ballot. That is going to give Andrew Cuomo the least chance of taking this win from Zohran. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you really want to support, consider becoming a member. That's the best way to support this channel. I'm posting different kinds of exclusive content there, like podcasts that don't make it to the main channel. Also music. I've got a new EP out right now called Dead Internet Theory, which is now available on all platforms, and that was available first for members only. I also re-released a previous EP called Spaceman Spliff. That's available now on the main channel with a bonus track included, and that was also available first for members only. So if you're interested in early access to music and other things like that, go ahead and become a member. And if there's other types of content that you'd like to see as exclusive content, let me know and we'll figure some things out.